They erased him. Think about that. Not murdered, erased, turned into a ghost. This isn't just a crime story. This is the story of the perfect, untraceable vanishing act, and the one catastrophic mistake that broke it wide open. December 1st, 1948, Somerton Beach, South Australia. A man is found dead, propped against a seawall. He looks perfect. Double-breasted suit, crisply tied necktie, shoes polished. He looks like he's waiting for a cab, but he's not. He's dead. And the poison that killed him? Undetectable, instantaneous, a rapid, violent death, yet the forensic toxicology reports came back completely empty. The police had a body, a time, and a cause, but they had zero evidence of the murder weapon. The killer used an agent so rare, so professional, the government labs of 1948 had no idea how to even look for it. He was a ghost killed by a ghost weapon. But the physical evidence was worse. The police ran the man's fingerprints, his dental records, everything they had against every international database. Nothing. The man did not exist. He carried no wallet, no ID, no money. Now, look at his clothes. Every single label, every single dry cleaning mark, every piece of internal identification was surgically cut out of his suit, his shirt, his underwear, his socks. This was not the work of a panicked amateur. This was the meticulous, dedicated operation of a professional who wanted to make sure that when this body was found, the man behind it was already deleted. The goal was simple: turn the man into a mystery the world could never solve. If you are going to this level of perfect professional erasure, removing 7 layers of tags and killing with undetectable poison, why would you leave the one tiny clue that risks the entire operation? The answer is simple. He didn't erase everything. We need to talk about his trousers. Investigators found a tiny, almost invisible pocket in the waistline. This pocket had been recently and deliberately sewn shut. Inside, rolled tighter than a piece of microfiche, was a small scrap of white paper. It only had 2 words on it, handwritten in a strange language. Tamam Shud. The perfect murder was betrayed by 2 words. The police were experts at solving crime, but they weren't experts in ancient Persian poetry. This tiny piece of evidence forced them to call in cryptographers, linguists, and intelligence operatives. The words Tamam Shud translated to "it is finished." It was a suicide note. But what kind of suicide note is written in a classified code and hidden inside a sealed pocket? They eventually traced those 2 words to a single, extremely rare edition of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. And when they found the book, a copy discarded in the back of an unlocked car, they found the real message. Scrawled on the back page were 5 lines of encrypted text, an unbreakable cipher. Now, look closely at this cipher. This is the core of the mystery. This isn't random scrawling. This is a code written specifically for one person to read. The body was the decoy, the message was the mission. The code was the key, and that key led them directly to one piece of human weakness: a local nurse. The book had a phone number, and that number belonged to a woman who claimed to know nothing about codes, books, or dead men. But the moment police showed her a plaster bust of the victim's face, she nearly collapsed in shock. The man was gone, his identity wiped, the poison was undetectable, but the one clue he left behind led directly to a woman who was actively and professionally lying about her connection to him. The ultimate question is not who killed him, but what was she trying to hide? And why did that code, scrawled in 5 frantic lines, lead to a woman who had a secret, intimate link to the highest level of international espionage? This is where we go into the engine room of the crime. This was not chaos. This was a system, a deliberate pattern of movement and communication designed to leave a body without leaving a path. The Somerton Man, or whoever was running him, followed a strict, final schedule. Let's deconstruct the system of erasure. The final 48 hours began 20 miles away in Adelaide. The man, who we now know through DNA was Carl Webb, followed his routine. He took the train from the railway station. This wasn't a choice, this was a pre-planned route. He stored a heavy suitcase at the station cloakroom. He checked the time and the schedule. This was his public mask, the boring, predictable routine of a traveling businessman. But the private truth was that this suitcase was his exit strategy. The police found it later. It contained clothes, but clothes that also had all their identifying labels surgically removed, more erasure. It also held two specific key items: a specialized electrician's screwdriver and a stencil brush, items of tradecraft. But here is the detail the police kept hidden. The police inventory suggested there was a separate, locked compartment in that suitcase, a compartment that was empty. An empty compartment big enough to hold a stack of bills. A compartment that, according to later intelligence reports, was supposed to contain up to $200,000 in operational funds. This wasn't a traveler. This was a field operative with specific tools for specific tasks. The system was running perfectly. He was traveling light, using tickets that gave him plausible deniability, and his identity was already being shredded. He had completed the physical stages of his vanishing act. But the most critical part of the system was the final exchange. The Somerton Man had to deliver a message. The police concluded he did not die at the seawall. He died at a different location, most likely a car or a dark private spot near the beach, before being moved. This requires coordination. This requires a loop. The system involved two participants, the agent, Carl Webb, and the handler, the nurse. The handler needed to confirm the message, the cipher, was received. The agent needed to dispose of the cipher's key, the physical book. The timing was everything. The Rubaiyat book, the one containing the cipher, was found discarded in an unlocked car 500 yards from the nurse's address. This wasn't random. This was a scheduled drop point. It suggests the agent threw the book into the car after meeting with the handler, confirming the message was delivered before the undetectable poison took effect. And this wasn't the first time this bizarre system had been run. Police estimated that the Somerton Man, or someone connected to him, had traveled that precise 20-mile train route between Adelaide and Somerton a minimum of 20 times in the preceding 6 months. This was a practiced pattern, a systematic, routine visit to his handler. This wasn't a chance meeting. It was a repeated, professional exchange. The agent delivered the message, he drank the poison, voluntarily or forced, and was moved to the beach. The handler collected the final message, confirmed the code, and then disposed of the book at the specific drop point. The system was designed to leave only the untraceable body on the beach, confusing the authorities and protecting the information. Now look at the cipher itself. It's 5 lines. It's written with a deliberate care that suggests it wasn't a frantic suicide note. It looks like a sequence, a key. We believe these 5 lines could be a one-time pad, a code designed specifically for a single use, which would make it fundamentally unbreakable without the key. The cipher wasn't for the police. It was for his handler, the nurse, to read later. His death was the confirmation that the message was authentic. The system was foolproof. The man was dead, the poison was gone, the identity was erased, and the classified message was delivered. But the system, like all systems, had a fatal flaw. The handler, the nurse, made one mistake. After receiving the message and confirming the code, she grew nervous. She did not burn the key. She simply tossed the book into the back of an unlocked car. She thought her system was invisible. She thought the body, the poison, and the routine would be the focus, but she forgot the most basic rule of human failure. She got lazy. She broke the routine. She thought the book would disappear into the night, but it didn't. The book was found, the cipher was exposed, and the handler, the woman who had been watching his train trips for 6 months, was called to the station. She thought she was safe. She thought she was invisible. But she forgot that someone was watching from the window across the street. The book was found. The book was logged. It was evidence. The police had the book. They had the code. They traced the phone number written inside the cover. That number led to her, to Jestyn. The police call. She answers. She denies everything. Cool, calm, professional. She has never heard of the book, never heard of the dead man, never heard of the code. But the police had a hunch. They push. They bring her to the station. They don't show her the book. They show her the plaster bust of the Somerton Man's face, the face of the man she saw die, the face of the man who had been traveling 20 miles to meet her for months. She sees the eyes. Her composure breaks. She nearly faints. It's a reaction. It's a confession. But it lasts only for a second. She snaps back, denies everything again. It was just the shock of seeing a dead man's face, a simple, understandable human reaction. The police know she's lying, but they have no proof, no tie, no witness to the exchange. They release her. She walks free. The system is still protecting her. But the paranoia starts. She knows the code is out. She knows the book is found. Did the agent reveal her name? Was the code about her? The panic sets in. The police can't break the code. They can't prove the poison, but they know the lie. They know the loop was real, and they know she is the center of it. The walls are closing in, fast. The police have one final brutal advantage. They let the handler go, and then they watch her. The trap is set. The pressure builds for decades. The code remains unbroken. The body remains unidentified. The nurse remains silent. The perfect murder becomes the impossible mystery. Then, 70 years later, the truth, or at least the final piece of the decoy, is forced out. The evidence is exhumed. Modern forensics enters the room. DNA. The technology didn't exist in 1948, but it exists now, and the DNA extracted from the man's hair and clothing finally gives the world a name. The ghost is forced to materialize. The Somerton Man was Carl Webb. This should be the end of the story, the triumphant closing of the file. But here is the cold surgical truth. The name changed nothing. Carl Webb was an electrical engineer with suspected ties to the intelligence community. Identifying him confirmed that this was a professional job, an agency op. But it didn't explain the poison. It didn't explain the code. It didn't explain the nurse. This is the ultimate brutal twist. Identifying Carl Webb was the final decoy. The code was never meant to be solved by the police. The code was a confirmation, a piece of classified, time-sensitive information that his handler, the nurse, needed to retrieve. The system worked. They identified the agent, but the handler remains untouchable. The core mission succeeded. Carl Webb's death confirmed a message was delivered, a mission was complete, and the information was secured by the agency that ran him. The police caught the body, but the organization that erased him walked away with the secrets. The cipher, even now, is likely not an alphabet code, but a one-time pad, a code designed to be impossible to break without the physical key that the handler destroyed. The handler, the woman named Jestyn, carried the secret of the cipher's meaning and the nature of the poison to her grave. She lied to the police. She protected the system. She walked away free. The body had a name, but the story has no ending.
Carl Webb was simply the sacrifice required to transmit classified information. His meticulous erasure was the price of admission. The pristine, polished shoes he wore on the beach, the image that began this entire story, tell the final truth. He wasn't dropped haphazardly. He was placed there, carefully, respectfully. He died in a professional manner. He was erased by professionals, and he was protected by the silence of the last human being who knew him. The system worked perfectly, save for one tiny piece of paper that was easily tossed aside. The world knows his name, but we still don't know the message. We still don't know the poison, and we still don't know the true motive of the beautiful, terrified nurse who saw his face and nearly collapsed. The agent is gone. The handler is silent. The mystery of the Somerton Man remains an open file. It's been 75 years. The code is still there, waiting.